Berkeley and Kristen Johnson have produced two books together. First, The Divinity Protocol, and now The Last Messenger. Berkeley's a businessman. He's a local hero. He's a friend to everyone seemingly in the town. When a mutual friend of ours, Pat McElroy, said, he's a pretty damn fine writer. And as you can see in his books, if you read his books, you will attest that he is a pretty damn fine writer. Unfortunately, tonight, Kristen could not make it. She has some family obligations, but Berkeley's here on their behalf. So please welcome Berkeley Johnson.
Thank you, Mike. I appreciate Chaucer and all the support that this bookstore has done over the years for local authors. You guys really, truly help all of us promote what we do and our passions, and I can't thank Chaucer's and you specifically, Mike, for supporting all the local authors. Thank you.
That's very nice of you to say, Augie. Just a couple quick questions. I'm going to have you, do you mind reading today, first of all?
No, sure.
A little bit of reading
Yeah,
and share a synopsis, but it's unusual that you and Kristen combined, and I remembered you had said you had met at the Santa Barbara Writers Conference. So what was that meeting like between the two of you aspiring authors, and how did this come to fruition after that?
Yes, well, I've always wanted to, write, but it's a daunting to do the first, the first book.
Mm-hmm.
I was sitting in the back of the class happily, and a nice lady was sitting next to me, and we were listening, looking at each other, and I got to talking to her, and she lives in Palm Springs, Kristen Johnson.
Mm-hmm.
I told her about my passion for science fiction. She had said she had never dabbled in that arena, and the more we got to talking, the more passionate I became about science fiction, and the more passionate she came about writing. We said, let's try it, see if we can write something together. And back then it was, we used the FaceTime, and
Mm-hmm.
we sit there and talk to each other. And she lives in Palm Springs, and I in Santa Barbara, and we just built a relationship. And it was so fun to do, and so enjoyable and satisfying that we decided to collaborate on a second book.
How does that work though between the two of you? Do you write something and then you show her, and then she writes something?
Yes, we
describe that process.
So I came up with the book concepts and the chapter guide,
Mm-hmm.
and then we would each take turns writing chapters, and we'd pick which chapter by who wrote the best, or who we liked, what we liked most, and then we went from there. And sometimes we would riff on each other and
Mm-hmm.
decide, we thought we had a plan for how the book would go, and then we would veer based on what the next chapter that we wrote.
But so you wrote different chapters, so you didn't write the same chapter and compare which one was the better or which way the story would go?
Yes, we each wrote the chapter and then picked the one that we liked, or tried to combine ideas. We thought if we each wrote a chapter, then we would get more material that we could then either combine or use one or the other. Each one was a different, each chapter was kind of an adventure.
Interesting. Going back to the Writers' Conference, why did you go to the Writers' Conference to begin with?
To see if I could get enough courage to start actually writing. I've done a lot of 1-page, 2, 3-page short stories. I did some humor writing for various magazines, and with 1 or 2 or 3 pages, you can just condense everything down to something just clean and very precise.
Mm-hmm.
And the character doesn't have to be developed, and you don't have to have an evolution of your story. You can just punch out an idea. So making that jump was something I wanted to try to do.
Was this something you've always wanted to do as a youngster? Did just stories, and how did stories influence you?
I grew up with science fiction. My dad loved science fiction. My mom loved science fiction. All I've ever read is science fiction. I love science fiction because, to me, it gives you a chance to step outside of reality in a way. It gives you, physics don't matter. You can. It's almost to me more akin to poetry than any other genre of writing, because you can bring out a concept in any form or fashion and adjust to what you want. You really, I think of science fiction, as a way to really allow humans to explore in a way that they wouldn't explore in their normal lives. And that is always of interest to me, you know, and particularly this evolution of humanity versus the evolution of machines and that machine human interface. How does that, you know, exploring that? What does that mean? You know, are we driving towards a machine human interface, or are we driving away from it? You know, are machines going to be way over here and humans going to be way over here? You know, are machines going to get their own intellect and be separate from, you know, biological based life, or are we going to integrate? You know, and what does that mean for humanity?
So what stories and influences, was it like Asimov or?
Certainly Asimov
Yeah.
with iRobot and some of his creations. You know, the idea, you know, it's so fearful. You talk to, you know, you talk to Musk or, you know, some of the people out there today, they say, you know, humanity will end when machines earn their intellect.
Yeah.
And, you know, how do you know, with Asimov was very hopeful. He wanted us to be able to inject human morals into robots, and that everything that was machine-like that we have in the future will have this human morality complex built within it, that it cannot kill a human being, that it cannot do these things. And I grew up with that, so I had this hope the machines would always be human-like and would be nice and friendly to us and kind and not be able to hurt us in any way. Every day I'm less at that position.
Yeah.
That they could kill us in a second.
Yeah.
You know, if their moral function is different than, you know, gene-based life.
It's interesting that how he almost predicted all this happening, what's going on now. Like Bradbury too, in a sense that.
Yes. All those great authors, you know, have thought about that machine-human interface. And with Divinity Protocol and with The Last Messenger, I you know, they're totally different stories, but I ponder, you know, the butterfly effect of, you know, humanity. My past life, I was making gene sequencing biochips. That was my world. And we would take genetic material, and a computer, a machine, would scan that genetic material and break down the DNA and know humans basically at the molecular level. And then there'll be 2 or 3 terabytes of data on one of those gene sequencing chips that would be uploaded into a machine. So we were basically taking human life and putting it into the machine. It's just so fascinating to me that we're at that level, you know.
So how much were you influenced in working in the science field? How much did that play a part in your writing?
Oh, a great part. I mean, I'm again fascinated by how the idea of what being a human is. You know, we are 32 trillion cells in our body. Each one of those with 50,000 genes floating around in each cell. You know, put together over millions of years of evolution. It's fascinating, and you know, we are able to take that and create a machine. You know, we've developed you know, is intellect something that's positive that will help us in the future, or is it like going to be a vestigial trait? You know, is our intellect going to end us? You know, are we going to be so smart that we destroy this world and create so many people that we can't support it, and, you know, create a war, or create a, you know, with our wonderful intellect, are we going to kill humanity? Is it going to, you know, or is it going to be something that's a positive? You know, and in my books I try to explore that.
Okay. So if you can briefly explain to everyone Divinity Protocol first of all, and then we'll get to the last.
So Divinity Protocol, in that one, it was kind of exploring the butterfly effect of humanity, and that a person, a very wealthy man, loses his daughter to a terrorist incident, and he's so hurt and upset he almost kills himself, but then he thinks, I'm going to change humanity. And the rest of the book is little things that he's doing. You don't really know why he's doing it, where the book's going, all these threads of where he's changing, doing little things to change, and then at the end he kills himself basically. And the next chapter is 1,000 years in the future. What's happened to humanity? All those things he put in place what did it do to humanity? So it's really a long list of things he does, and then the catch-alls, what does humanity look when he's changed things? And I try to give a hint of why I wrote that. It really has to do with population density, this particular book.
Okay.
It's clothed in, we've had what? If you have 25 years in a generation, and we have 2,000 years since Christ was born, what is that? That's 800 generations. And in 790 of those generations, we've had 1 billion people. In the last 10, we've added another 8 billion. So what does that, what happens 10 years from now, 100 years from now, 1,000 years from now at that growth curve?
Yeah. Maybe I should ask your wife this, but do you worry about this stuff at night personally?
I do ponder it, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And now we get to the last messenger.
So Last Messenger was this one was a little darker, hopefully with some hope at the end. I grew up with Star Trek where everything was positive at the end. And so there is some positiveness at the very end, but a lot of it is dark. This was, my family complained that it was a little too dark, and my daughter was a young up-and-comer. She's a chemical engineering student at Princeton this year. She's a freshman.
Wow.
And she was saying, "Dad, a little lighter, please." And so the heroine in this is a 16-year-old Maddie, who you can probably see some similarities to my own daughter. But it was kind of celebrating her coming out into the world. And again, it has to do with machines wanting to kill the human race and Maddie saving the day.
Interesting. Would you care to share a little bit, read a little?
Sure. Happy to. Let's read about a little bit. Let's see, let's find something here. Ginny Smith worked to find a comfortable spot on the bed with the antique Civil War headboard, while her husband, science historian Dr. Noah Smith, was frantically trying to negotiate with the Forestry Service over the phone for a helicopter to airlift Ginny out of the cabin to the local emergency room before she gave birth. Oh my God, his breath came out in short bursts. The baby. Ginny's water had broken 30 minutes ago, which he understood was normal. The blood was not. Ginny bit her lip and hunkered down against the pain. She had taken off her simple pearl and diamond ring as well as her princess-cut diamond wedding ring and placed them on the bedside table. Her voice now sounded calm, the way it did when she wanted to humor him and avoid an argument. Yes, the baby. Noah's blood pressure shot up. It can't be coming now. It is. Noah massaged her feet, outstretched on the rumpled sheets mounted at the end of the bed. He heard grim news from the Forestry Service. The helicopter's rotor was sitting on the shop floor and would be of no use today. It is coming now. But the blood, too much. His voice reflected the panic that he was trying successfully to hide from her. Women have had babies at home for hundreds of years, she said. Get some water. Water? You mean to drink? No, I mean to run me a bath. Now? Ginny blew another breath from winter chapped lips. To give birth in the tub, it'll work. You can make it work. We, us, will do it together. Ginny blew from another breath from winter chapped lips. Noah struggled to remember where he left the bag that had made for the hospital. His doctor would not help him here. Oh yes, he left the bag in the baby's crib. Also an antique, crafted by his grandfather, Abe Smith. A moan, then Ginny clutched her belly. Noah couldn't swear whether he moaned or she did. No time to get help. The baby coming weeks early and the lines down in the late frost. 2 hours minimum from this bluff overlooking Lake Ontario. Only one path now to take. I can do this, he said, as much to reassure himself as her. I hope so. Ginny sniffled and brushed her baby fine blonde hair out of her eyes. Sorry to be so bitchy. The shock, you know. I'm not ready. And I am ready. You know what I mean? You are ready. You're perfect. She smiled. Oh, how you talk. I can tell you grew up with women in the house. He felt but didn't glance at the silver-framed photo on the dresser. A photo of Noah, his parents June and George, the older sister Dara, perched on the front steps of the cabin. Parents dead now, but George's serious eyes and Harry Potter glasses. and June's relaxed ones made him feel their presence in a way he couldn't contemplate right now. He felt Dara's absence too, more temporarily. He remembered the email she sent a month ago from some tiny place in Brazil where she did Presbyterian missionary work. Bro, tell Jenny not to give birth till I'm back in the country. I realize she's in charge, so maybe make it a request from her sis. Seriously, for real, home in 7 weeks, love Dee. Dara had it right, she could only request, but Jenny's water breaking set the time the baby would arrive 3 weeks earlier than her due date. You're perfect, he said again. Jenny blew a long breath, but you're scared as hell. He thought, but didn't say, that his grandmother gave birth this way, tough as her husband, Lieutenant Abe Smith, who avoided the distinction of killed in action in the Civil War. Abe Smith, green, gun-hold, freckled teenager, eager to escape a lifetime of slaughtering pigs on his father's farm. Jenny's breath whooshed in and out, a steady stream, and she stared ahead of her. Translate. Breathing exercises, he said. That's good. Thanks to the internet, I said. I learned so much. He listened to her breathing that matched the wind in the spreading trees that fenced in her cabin outside. Might have to get a chainsaw for an ambulance to get through. This is what we wanted, raise our family alone and free and private, off the grid. There's an Ottawa Indian grandmother in the village of Canhill that claims to be a midwife, he said. We might need her help. I know she's on the internet. I've been emailing her. Just thought it would be next month, you know? Noah's mind worked all the possibilities. We can get her here faster than the paramedics, 15 miles away. Can't hurt, Jenny clamped her mouth shut, but a scream still escaped. But I heard. Noah grabbed his phone and called the Ottawa Indian midwife. She answered on the third ring. Luna, here. How can I help? Noah explained the situation as Jeannie screamed again. From the sound of it, I'm guessing she's having twins, yes? Luna Mainstay, the midwife asked. Twins? Now Noah reminded himself to breathe. I don't know, we didn't find out. Okay, Luna's voice sounded calm, soothing. It sounds to me like she might be having twins. Check for placenta previa. Has she had vaginal bleeding in the last 2 months? Noah repeated the question to Jenny, who shook her head. At Noah's prompt, she loosened her limbs and then let him take a look. Ribbons of blood came forth. Noah's mind worked. I think everything is blocked and she's bleeding too much. Hang up for spirit's sake and save her. On my way. Noah doesn't remember much of those minutes. He shut down his nostrils to the salty odor of his wife's blood. His mind went through a disjointed ABC of birth. Anxiety, his and Ginny's. Breathing, Ginny's and his matching the wind. Calm, that irrational, tranquil sense that whispered, it will be okay. Heartbeat, his and Ginny's, drum-like. Irises of the eyes. Ginny's so wild and different that he'd ever seen. Jitters, his hands trembling. Kiss, he gave one to Ginny on her forehead and tasted her sweet, salty perspiration and her natural musk. Realization, Ginny's eyes widening and looking into his soul, squeezing his hand with her remaining streak and whispering, it will be okay. Take care of them. I love you. Luna worked quietly, covering his wife's face. She gently held his face with her hands, looked into his eyes with kind wisdom. You have a healthy boy and girl. Ginny is gone, but she's counting on you to raise them right and give them her love.
Wow, very nice. That's just the beginning, and the pace is so.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so the book, moves from this, human, very human element to it, to outside of our galaxy, to a deadly inimical machine that is there to crush any type of biological life, and it's out there waiting, and it learns of Earth through some things that happen in the book, and it's coming to get us.
Wow, I'm down. So how long did this one take you and Kristen to?
Divinity took about a year and a half, and this one took about a year. And just bouncing back, could have been faster, but we have to actually make a living.
Yeah.
Working. So
did the pandemic play any part in the faster speed of this? Over?
Yes, again, we had a little more time at home, so you set the phone up and start talking, and it worked it's very easy to work with her. Chris, she's wonderful. But I'm going to try to do. I've got 2 more books in my head, and I might try to do one on my own next time. She's got some writing obligations too, so we'll see.
Well, you're going to open a restaurant soon in a couple days, and you're
Yes.
going to have time to do all this.
Yes, well, we have some restaurateurs here in this.
Okay,
in this
okay.
area Here, but we have a La Taqueria Unica, which is opening. It's a
Yeah.
street taco place, which is opening just right up the street here.
Been watching that every week.
Yeah. So and Florida May's down on the coast and Augie's in mid-state.
So is this a nice balance for your life as far as you're so busy with business and doing other things? I mean, the balance between the artistic and the business.
Yeah, it feeds my soul for sure, and
Yeah.
and it gives me a chance to wonder, just about all those elements of humanity. I'm 60, almost 62 now, so I got, what, 20, 30 years to make a difference in the world from now, and
Yeah.
and one way is to reach young people with wonder. I think kind of the fuel of science fiction is wonder, and to get kids to think about what's next and their place in humanity, and that butterfly effect. One person can change, I think, the world. I try to push that out in my books.
I have one more question, then I'll open it up to the audience. I want to jump back to before with your father. What kind of stories did you share with him, and does it have an influence on your writing?
Yes,
in
for
his
sure. Well,
stories?
he was a wanderer too. I mean, he was a calculus professor at Berkeley, and
Yeah.
he loved science and imbued in us a love of science.
Yeah.
And he read us the entire Tolkien trilogy and made voices for each one of the characters. And he was divorced from my mom, and so we only saw him once every weekend, every
Yeah.
2 weeks. So when we went there, the entire night was spent reading Tolkien
Oh,
to
wow.
our family, and so that
Wow.
gave me this just wonderful sense of what you can do with magical writing.
Yeah. That's neat. Does anybody have any questions you want to ask Augie? Any questions? Could be personal, it could be about his writing. Or
What was the hardest part of writing that, either of the books?
The hardest part was I had fortunately let my daughter read this, and I had put a sexual scene in with the 16-year-old girl and her boyfriend, and that is no longer in the book. She said no young girl would do that with a young boy. That was the hardest part. And in the first book, I used some names of people, but the characters were not nice people, and the people were like, "Why did you make me a bad character?" I had to do a lot of apologizing.
overall, what does your daughter think of the character that?
I think she was proud that Maddie's a strong and capable young woman. And,
Yeah.
again, she's done a good job with her academics, and I hope that she's proud of her.
Yeah.
And,
I'm sure she is. Are there any other questions?
To your point earlier about your one-pagers and your two-pagers, and he's also quite an author for his friends in the various events and things. What inspires you on that side of your writing?
yeah, well, mostly I mean a good laugh, and I hope the next book that I have in my head will get some laughter. I've gone some darker to lighter. I hope the next one will be humorous. Back to what I'm most comfortable with.
We enjoy being a part of it. They're fun.
Yeah. Is it going to be sci-fi?
It'll have some sci-fi elements, but it'll be more human based, more present day.
All right.
Yeah.
Are there any more questions before we sign books?
Would you ever consider collaborating with ChatGPT?
Yes. So as a matter of fact, I'm fascinated by that again. The ChatGPT, if you all know it, it's a new paradigm for machine learning.
Yeah.
And I actually was asked to do a college, what do you call it, graduation speech, and I wrote it with ChatGPT in 30 seconds. I said, college graduation speech, short, and 30 seconds later I had one that I read at the college graduation, and then I told them this was written by a machine, and then I read my graduation speech. But it was so freaky to have a machine for them, for these graduates, to say, what does it mean to be human? You could not tell that a machine wrote that speech, and ChatGPT is that next level of human interaction with what we're doing. I was thinking about I had this if you really want to know what I'm thinking in these books, I put some messages in the back of them, and each of them also, just so you know, has a code here that can be cracked that will take you on an adventure somewhere here in town, type of thing. That kind of just for fun type of thing. But to me, there's some serious underlying challenges that humans have to face sooner than later, much sooner than later. And I've tried to really, these books are powered by my desire to get those ideas out and have people talk about them and start to use our intellect to save ourselves as human beings. I really think that we're coming to this nexus where we either use our intellect to make it so the future generations can happen, or we use our intellect to die off as a Homo sapien. And it's up to us. No one else has our ability to change that. But we seemingly make this series of missteps with our intellect that are putting us down a path of risk. And it's up to all of us, I think, to get us on a path that allows humans to flourish. If we destroy this, if you think, again, I go back to my gene sequencing days, we share the genetic DNA to 99% with every other living organism that is on this planet. That means that a frog is 99% similar in DNA, into the structure of us, as we are to a frog, as we are to an amoeba, which is probably at 97% of all of our DNA. We share the exact same DNA. That means that rather than humans being alive and an amoeba being alive, it really is DNA is the true biological code for life. And we are the only planet that's developed over millions of years in the universe that has this code. So this idea that we can hop to another planet to save, no other planet in the universe is built over millions of years to accept our DNA in a way that allows us to live. So why are we trying to spend our time going to another planet, which we may have to if an asteroid comes or something, when we have a planet that's better than any other planet we'll ever find in our lifetime or anyone else's lifetime, right here, that if we fix this planet, that's the easiest thing in the world to do compared to going somewhere else to live. That's the passion I have inside me.
It's very evident. Are there any more questions? Did you have notes from Kristen?
She just wanted to thank everyone. It's so sorry that she couldn't come, and hopes the next. She came for the Vinny Protocol a few years ago, and if we collaborate again, she'll be here the next book.
Great. Yeah. And then you brought something else with you.
Oh yes. Well, in the book you'll notice hot cocoa is something that's in it. I love hot cocoa myself, so it's integrated in the book, so everyone gets a cocoa pack on the way out.
Well, Augie, thank you very much for sharing your story and the story of your books.
Sure.
Thank you. Congratulations on your books, and once again, Augie Johnson.
Thank you.